I'm here with Occhi magazine with Janelle Snow and talking about the latest release of her movie, Rainbow's End. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So I always get weird. I'm always gonna forget the title. So if I seem a little disjointed, that's why. So I always make sure make sure I pronounce it
Want to
correct.
get it right, right?
Yeah, exactly. so first of all, congratulations on such a great film. There was so many layers to it. I was just like overwhelmed by all the different themes in there. I just wonder if you can tell our audience a little bit about the film.
Sure. The film is unique in a lot of ways. I think the first way that struck me when I read the script is that it tells the story of a couple spanning about 20 years, which you don't often see, and you get a good slice of their life during that whole span. And in the beginning, you see them in the early stages of their relationship. They eventually decide to adopt a child, and the story is essentially a love story about these two people, and the third point of that triangle being their adopted son and the challenges that they go through with him and within their relationship as parents. And it's a radically honest look at some of the challenges that you have as a parent and in a relationship when you are a parent. So that's it. And I think one of the other and really important themes that struck me even upon reading it, not to mention while I was filming it, is the negative result of mislabeling somebody, assuming that you know a thing about them or that you know a thing is going to be true about them because you might know one aspect or have been told one thing about them. And you see that play out in a myriad of ways as well. I don't want to give out any spoilers.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I just try to remember that myself. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it was yeah. I was just such a powerful movie on so many levels. I wanted to ask, like, in preparation for this, what kind of things did you do to prepare for this role?
Yeah, I love that question, and I guess every actor would respond differently, maybe. But this was unique in that I was offered the role. I auditioned, and then I was offered the role only a couple of weeks before filming started. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to prepare. But I've spun around the sun enough times that I'd like to think that all of the roles I've played in the past and the observations I've made contributed to my readiness to play the role. But quite frankly, when you're filming something, especially an independent project where you've got 12-hour days, 6 days a week for a chunk of weeks in a row, you're really just trying to do every day what's in front of you that day. And I really appreciated your kind words congratulating me, but if I take any of that, it's about this much of it, because there was a team of people that made it happen. I mean, literally every single person who was present on that set, in front of, behind the camera, to the side of the camera, were lifting up the projects with both hands and sometimes with one of their feet spinning a plate as well. So what did I do to prepare? I consulted the team on a minute-by-minute basis when I was on set. The screenwriter was there every single minute. The director was available every single minute. The producer and story developer, Joe, was there every single minute. My partners were amazing. That doesn't happen on every project. It sounds like I'm, shooting out rainbows and unicorns, but I'm so excited about this because, again, I've been around long enough, and I can tell you not every project is like that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
This was a real pleasure.
So it was a good supporting cast. That's great.
Oh, yeah. And you can't, like being a musician, you might be great at your musician, but if you're in an ensemble with 5 or 6 other players and they're out of time or out of tune, the end result isn't going to sound good.
Oh yeah, we go running for the bar very quickly,
I played the flute in a marching band, and then the piccolo. And sure, it may not be the most fancy instrument, not the one you think of, but I promise you, if you do a Stars and Stripes Forever or something, you're going to want to have a good piccolo. So all the instruments come to play. You know what I mean?
Most definitely, yeah. And
don't talk down the piccolo.
yeah, especially if you're sitting right next to him, you want to put him on your good side, yeah.
That's right. So everybody in the band of Rainbow's End made the project what it is.
That's always a good feeling, it makes your job easier and more enjoyable, which is I'm happy that you got that experience,
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was like summer camp.
Oh,
I
really?
learned a lot. I made great friends. I had a lot of fun. Didn't get a lot of sleep. So,
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, those are long hours you're putting in.
yeah.
I wanted to ask. I was seeing something on YouTube that this originally was for a play. Is that correct? That it was, the original script was for a play.
Yeah, interestingly enough, this story has a pretty long history, and I was only looped in, as I mentioned, just a couple of weeks before filming started. But Joe Orlandino, who's one of the main producers, came up with a story inspired by something that he witnessed, and he came up with a story, and eventually realized that it would be more fitting to play out on a screen.
Okay.
And he, through a series of um, ads and networking, connected with Jennifer Cooney, who is the screenwriter. And
Okay.
so, literally for years, from inception to the day we started filming, which was actually 2 years ago this week. So,
Yeah. Oh, and I was going to ask. So, with that being kind of already in existence, was that part of some of the I guess stuff you had to study for preparing for the role, and maybe drawing inspiration, or was it? I guess was it already documented, like and filmed as a play, or was it just like a script that maybe you had access to, or?
yeah, it was just a script. I think it had gone through several readings. So I'm assuming that there were, not only, I'm sure there was workshopping along the way, because even sometimes on set we would rework things. That's the beauty of having a screenwriter so present and flexible. But, in terms of preparing for it, once you sign on to play a role, or I should say once I sign on to play a role, then I only have one access point for the script, and it's my character's point of view.
Gotcha.
And I try to approach everything just from what that character would know and what that character would be thinking and experiencing in that moment of that scene. And I try to shut out the bird's eye view that I tend to have when I'm watching something, and really just lock into that. So it's been really fun over the last week to open my perspective back up and watch the film as someone outside of it might see it. So that's been really interesting for me. As I said to you, this is really a serious film. As I'm watching it, this kept occurring to me. Of course it is. But again, that wasn't my experience. So it just tells you those two things are existing side by side.
Okay, gotcha. And I was going to ask, maybe this is kind of tying into the same thing. Your interaction with your son in the movie. I found that really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where we don't see one of the central figures, and I was sitting there wondering, like, that must be really hard to have to interact with someone that you don't, that's not there all the time. So can you maybe talk about that experience?
Yeah, sure. It is an unusual convention, for sure. But I can tell you that for me, again, playing Hannah, Beau was very real to me. I had imaginatively constructed a human being, and Amanda, my scene partner who played Jules, we talked a lot about what our lives with Beau off screen, what that looked like, what that felt like, what that sounded like. So it felt very real to me. There are times when you're on set, and I don't think this will surprise anybody. There's so much, behind the scenes stuff available now, but there are times where your scene partner is not available and you might be acting with a piece of tape on the wall. So imagining our son Beau and doing scenes with him wasn't as hard as you might think it was, because we purposefully, together with Jen, really constructed a live version of Beau for ourselves.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's good to hear. I'm glad it wasn't too tumultuous of a task.
yeah, I mean, did you have imaginary friends growing up? I think most of us did.
I think I
And
still do.
thank you for admitting that, because I definitely do. So, but it's that same skill. It's that same skill where you can imagine. It doesn't make them less real just because you've only imagined them. It almost makes it more precious. So Beau was not a non-entity for me. He was very real for me, coming to set every day and doing the scenes.
Okay,
and I
yeah.
hope he's real for the audience, even though they don't get to see him. I hope that allows them to plug into their own imagination of a child they might know, or if they're a parent, their own child. But also, it's a story. It's actually not about our child. It's about how we parent and how we come and stay together or not as we grow with this parenting, on this parenting journey.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, because I was watching the film and I was like, it just reminded me of my own life with me and my wife and my daughter. I'm just like, the matter of it's, man and woman, woman, man and man. I think this is a film that kind of relates to just the typical family household, which I think is a testament to how powerful the story is.
Yeah, oh, I so appreciate that, Daryl, because the couple in this instance are lesbians. But
Mm-hmm.
you could plug in a gay couple, a heterosexual couple, any two people parenting together
Mm-hmm.
can relate to this story. I love that was reflected to you, because that was certainly our intention.
Oh, God, wonderful! Yeah, I mean, I was like, man, it's like I gotta go out and face the dragon. The family life. It's like, so it hit home to me on many levels.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, it not and again, that the Instagram version of parenting
Mhm.
is pretty.
Exactly.
Laughs and giggles, and I know that is not the whole story.
No, no, no. I definitely. It's kind of like you don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So having that exposed in such a raw and real way, I think, is a really beautiful and important part of this film.
Most definitely. I was going to ask, how does this work on this film differ to maybe some of the other work you've done in your career, like with Chicago Med and other projects?
Sure. So I'm a Chicago-based actor, and for most of the actor artists who make this their home base, we love the stage. We love theater. That is the bulk of my acting experience. But fortunately, we've had a lot of TV and film come through, especially in the last 10 years. So I've had the opportunity to work on all kinds of projects. And they're all different depending on how long you spend on set and how much time you have to get the work done. In TV and film, or in screen acting, there tends to be a fairly rushed dynamic. You don't get to run the scene a lot of times before you're actually performing in front of the camera. Versus on stage, you might have run that scene in rehearsals over the course of even a short rehearsal process, like 3 weeks, dozens and dozens of times before you put it up on its feet. So I'm more in tune with the big differences between stage work and on-camera work than I am so much with the various kinds of on-camera work, because they all tend to be similar in that you don't get a lot of rehearsal. There's a lot of people on set, right? When you're doing a play, you have this wholly magical space created for you where you're with the players and you can feel the audience. Whereas when you're on set, no one's watching for your performance as much as they are watching to make sure that the lighting is right and the angles are right, etc. So you don't really feel like you're performing in the same way. But one of the things I love about it is you can mess up and just do it again. If you say the wrong line or hiccup and need a drink of water, right? You can't do that on stage. So I really do love them both, and a lot of Chicago actors are fortunate that we get to kind of have a foot in both worlds.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I always kind of draw those parallels with my own field. Like performing live versus being in the studio. Studio, you
Right.
can go back and redo stuff, but live, if the read is bad or you hit a wrong note, it's like it's gone. But I guess it makes it more precious in that way. Maybe you feel the same way with music, with doing the theater stuff. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're grieving the lack of live performance as a performer in the same way that I am and so many other stage artists. But I mean, I long for that indescribable feeling of connection with an audience in real time as you're presenting something. And you're subtly, it's like jazz, right? You're subtly, moving and changing depending on all the other elements.
Most definitely.
And when you're on set, there are fewer elements. There's your scene partner.
Yeah.
That's about the only changing element. And, so, oh yeah, that's a great example, Daryl. And yeah, do you miss it?
I do, yeah. It's been a year since I played a gig with my band, and I just done like in-home recording stuff. But it's I imagine all of us are going through it in each art discipline. It's just like waiting for the doors to open and get back to it. Yeah.
I'm looking at it as, and I don't mean to diminish the artistic pain that is present with the absence of live performance. But I'm hoping to turn that into a renewed appreciation when we're able to do it again. I won't take it for granted. I can tell you that.
Yes, most definitely. I hear you. Yeah, and I think maybe even audiences will start to appreciate it more too.
I think as an audience member myself, absolutely. I miss going to hear live music
Yeah.
so much. There's just nothing like it. Yeah.
Yes. It's
So that's a really good analogy. Theater's like live music, and on camera's like recording in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that, Daryl. Can I use that from now on? As my friend Daryl says.
Oh, anytime, anytime. Um, uh, if it's possible to discuss this without, I guess, giving away spoilers, I'm trying to be conscious of that. Can you
Okay.
maybe talk about some of the evolution of relationships in this film, like between you and Jules and your father? I think those were two relationships, especially that I noticed, and then maybe I guess the relationship with yourself, or maybe the development of your character through the
Yeah.
20-year span that this takes.
Yeah. That's a big question, and I
Yeah.
thought about it for sure. No, it's an important question, and I'm not saying that this is the takeaway everyone else should have. This was just my way in, was that the invisible string that connects everybody in this film is love. The love between a parent and a child, the love between partners, the love between friends, and all of those connections are really tried by circumstances and by labels. And for Hannah, there's the theme of the invisible string that, is just within her, about loving herself and accepting herself,
Hmm.
and getting to a point where she's able to do that and soften to a degree where she can share more of that with the people she loves. Hannah's backstory, and it is revealed in the film, although not extensively. You see obviously a scene with her father, played by the incomparable Ed Asner.
Oh yeah.
Um, you can see that that is a fraught relationship, and you also learn that she lost her mother when she was young, and her father was in the military. So um, it also is revealed that he doesn't say "I love you." So I think we can assume that that wasn't a relationship with a lot of emotional availability. And so
Right.
that's real. She's really crippled in her love relationships because of that. And so part of what you see in this journey is she's connected to, drawn to her partner Jules, in part because of how loving and expressive and gentle and flexible and forgiving Jules is.
Hmm.
But she just keeps going and going and going until Jules hits a breaking point. And that forces Hannah, in conjunction with help from the parenting relationship and advice from her best friend, played by the exquisite Sean Young. You see a really lovely point at the end of the movie where you see the result of all that hard work, some self-love, self-acceptance, and mutual coming together of all of those invisible strings of love.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, I was just looking at it. I was like, I couldn't imagine the difficulty of spanning this 20 years, but you all did a wonderful job with the pace of the story and how the character development and just everything. It was
Can I
very
just give a shout out to Betsy Finn, the makeup and hair guru on set?
okay.
Because to your point, right? So in the morning I might have been shooting a scene from 2002, and then in the afternoon we might have been shooting a scene from 2008, and so on and so forth. And she was always on top of what day it was, what year it was, how
Oh,
to appoint me so I looked like I mean, that's what I mean when I say, I'm just so fortunate. I had such an incredibly supportive, intelligent, kind, generous team behind me, to sort of lift me up and then place me under the lights for every scene. Honestly, that's what it felt like for me.
oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was a great makeup done on the whole level of the music of the movie, so it was great. And then I remember I was watching one of the interviews, and I found one of the parts funny, but yeah, your father in the movie. Forgive me, I'm blanking on his name. Ed.
The actor's name is Ed Asner, and the character's name is Gunny.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I apologize. Ed Asner.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I heard he was falling asleep on set. Is that true? Like he was
Well, let's just lay out some context. He's
okay. Yeah.
over 90 years old, and he flew
Wow.
in from Los Angeles, so different time zone, and he had to show up on set in the morning, which would have been, you know, obviously earlier even for him. And
Yeah.
I don't know, have you ever been on set? Top secret info, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
I hate to dispel the illusion, but when you're not acting, you're just sitting around while the amazing technicians are getting everything ready. That's honestly what it is.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm sure I fell asleep. You know, it just that wasn't funny. That was just let her sleep so she can come back on set. But he was in a chair. We had just fed him a meal. I mean, within the scene, but he'd eaten it. So, well, if you're over 90 and you just flew across the country and you're sitting in a comfy chair and you just ate a big meal and there's nothing going on, yeah, you might fall asleep.
I might do it, and I'm only 39, so yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, but when I say fall asleep, I mean he nodded off. I mean he put his chin down like my own father does from time to time, and just kind of checked out to re-energize. So yes, that is what happened.
Oh, okay. And I heard that they would the way to wake him up was they would powder his nose or something like they said he was powdered.
Yeah. So right before the cameras roll, there's something called last looks, which means the makeup artist and everyone else takes a look to make sure all is in order to start rolling. And usually the last things that happens for you as an actor artist is the makeup artist comes in and puts powder on you. That's just what happens. And so, and that's not, we didn't invent that. That happens on every set, right? So we would just call last look, and the makeup artist Angela, who is brilliant and so fun and so kind, would come in and just very gently sort of powder his nose, and that would wake him up.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they might have done the same for me, and if they want to tell that story, that's fine.
Well, it's good to hear stories like that. So I imagine working those hours, it can be kind of at times maybe stressful. So that's good to hear that it was so
nice. Stressful is one thing. Boring is something totally else. And when I say boring, I just mean, I just mean that there's downtime if you're an actor. Everyone else is working harder than you are. I don't know, maybe that's not well known, but like I was on set every day. Every day I showed up, there was a team of people already there, and I was never the last to leave. So there are people who work literally from when the clock starts till when the clock ends and beyond, and they're the people who really make it happen. So maybe their experience is not that it's boring, but when you're the actor and you're just stepping into the setup and then you're performing and stepping out and stepping back in, when you're out, there's usually not that much to do.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, there were delightful people on set. So when I say boring, what I really mean is that there were a lot of opportunities for a lot of fun, mischief, and good conversations.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it keeps it nice and loose. So that's
nice. Yeah.
Oh, so I also wanted to get into another part of your career. You also are a teacher of drama, correct?
I am. Yes. Thank you for acknowledging it. I have my twin passions of teaching and acting. So yes, I actually teach on-camera acting. So they feed each other.
So I'm sorry. I wanted to ask. So when you're taking on these jobs, like are you also making notes or trying to remember, like think like in the back of your mind as you're doing a job, like how do I explain this to a student later on, or
yes,
reflect later?
You're exactly right. Yeah. Yes, it's hard for me to be on set and not be thinking in terms of, oh, I should remember to tell my students this, or, oh, that's right, I remember when I didn't know this, such a valuable thing to know, make a mental note and tell my students. I mean, I hope, come to class and regale them with my day and tell them everything that happened. But yes, I do experience my life on set through the students' eyes, for sure. And I think one of the things that really helps me do is appreciate it, because I'm working for the most part with emerging actor artists who haven't spent a lot of time on set yet and who really want to. And, I don't know what your 25-year-old self was like, Daryl, but my 25-year-old self was a lot thirstier than this version. And so their desire to do it feeds my joy and appreciation when I get to do it. It doesn't become old hat to me. I don't let myself become cynical or disillusioned, because I know that there are so many amazing artists out there who would love to be doing it. So I always feel really lucky when I'm on set. But yeah, I think of it as a teacher for sure.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So, I mean, for any students of acting out there, take notes, for to this video, hopefully, and they can find you at the Chicago School of Arts. Is that right?
I teach in a variety of academic settings, but I teach at Acting Studio Chicago. That's a professional
Okay.
studio here in Chicago, and they offer classes in just about everything. And I teach in the on-camera department.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to give a nice little shout out for that
Thank you. Yeah. In fact, one of the people in the film had taken my on-camera class.
oh, really? Oh, so
Yeah, so that was super fun. Yeah.
oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So it's like I had some experiences like that where students come back and I'm like, oh, you're in the city now, or they're playing and they're making their living, so it's nice. Yeah,
That's neat, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, yeah.
That is
So
one of the perks of being able to get old.
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, can I ask you, what instrument do you play?
I play mainly saxophone, but I do flute and clarinet also.
Of course, right? Because it's the same fingering. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, but I think the clarinet and the saxophone are harder. I think because of the reed. I think it's even harder than like the embouchure that you need to have to play the flute. My brother and his my nephew, his son, are huge musicians, and they play the clarinet and the sax and
Oh,
other
really?
instruments as well. Hmm.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, so I guess it depends. 'Cause I mean, I started out mainly on saxophone, so when I had to start playing flute and clarinet, I was, looking up to the sky many a time in the practice room.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. And as far as I guess the muscle fatigue, yeah, flute is definitely a little bit easier on the mouth for sure. I mean, the
Yeah,
clarinet just always beats me up every time I play it, but but so even with this pandemic, I just have to make sure I pull it out and try to practice at least
right.
or two every day to keep in shape. Yeah.
Well, shout out to all the parents, because a bad flute, when your kid is starting to learn to play it, is much more tolerable than a bad clarinet.
Oh yes.
Shout out to all the parents who have sat through their kids practicing the clarinet and the saxophone in the early days, and I mean that.
Yes.
It's a gift.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. In the right hands, it sounds wonderful, but in the beginning stages, and probably myself included, I'm sure I don't know how my parents did it, but
Yeah, send a shout out to them. That was a gift.
yeah, yeah, exactly. um, I don't want to keep you too long because I can literally talk all day, so I don't want to. I might start boring you if I keep going on too long. But I
Not
want
a chance.
to. What's some of the I guess overall thoughts and stuff maybe you would like to how I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, maybe like the overall impression you would be most proud of with this film, and maybe what you would like audiences to take away from the film. I know you discussed
Yeah,
the theme of love already, but maybe anything else.
sure.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a great question, because I think when you're finding a reason for committing to a piece of art, especially in a world where it's going to live for people to see it for a while, right? Or even if it's going to live on stage for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to ask yourself that as an actor artist. What do I hope people come away with? And I don't want to dictate what people take away from it, but my fondest hope would be that people can see. I hope a takeaway is that fighting for love is worth it.
Oh,
That it's
wonderful.
not easy. For me, what I think is beautiful about the film is it doesn't, gloss over the hard parts. It doesn't gloss over the ugly parts. It doesn't gloss over the challenging parts.
Most
But at
definitely.
the end, right? But at the end of the day, my takeaway after watching it is, love can win if you fight for it.
That's very true. I mean, that's the main thing I came away with the film. I was just like, I was looking at your character, and I was like, man, I need to step up my game and be a little bit more patient. Because I was looking at some of the scenes in the movie, I was just like, I'm like, man, I think I would have, if that was me, I think I would have been done, or I might have lost it. And I think maybe some other people watching the film might have been like, oh, I would have been out of that situation a long time ago. So I think it's
Yeah.
a
Well,
wonderful story.
I mean, it's fictional, obviously, but I also think that, we as human beings can only guess at how we would act in a circumstance, right? And I think that as difficult and challenging as it is, the underlying, undying love that those parents have for that child
Hmm.
carries the day, you know?
Definitely, yes. Yeah, again, I mean, Hopefully I'll be able to watch it again and again. It's just such an amazing film. I wanted to ask, do you have any other projects coming up that you would like to share or that you can share at the moment, or is it under top secret right now?
No, it's not top secret. I mean, like a lot of other artists and actor artists, 2020 was a pretty dormant year.
Yes, yes.
Not in terms of my teaching. I've been really fortunate that I've been able to continue to do it online and continue to have full classrooms. I'm really appreciative of that because it keeps me engaged. I don't have anything locked in on my artistic plate right now.
Okay.
But the way that it works for TV and film anyways, most of the time it happens and then you start it. In the theater world, you can sometimes be cast in something or know you have a gig months and months from now. But the TV and film world, the screen acting world is a little bit more immediate. So, next month I might have something.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So,
I always hear the stories, the agent calls and then it's like, oh I read
that's right. You have an audition. It's tomorrow and it starts shooting Monday. Yeah, well, that happens all the time. That's what happened with this. So.
Oh, gotcha. So,
yeah.
Any students watching this, that there's a real life example.
That's right. Yeah. I'm in it.
Yeah.
I am in it, and I remain optimistic and ready.
Oh, and I look forward to more of your work. Again, thank you for taking the time to do this with us at Occhi Magazine. And
it was my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you, and it was nice to meet you. Appreciate you watching the film and taking the time.
Oh, likewise. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
I hope so.
All right, take care.
Okay, have a good one. Bye, Daryl.